Hello. I meant to say hi, I said hello. My name is Alexis, and this is my first video ever. This is my dog. She's sleeping. She doesn't want to be on camera. I decided to start YouTube really to just showcase my life. You know, who else starts YouTube? And the difference between this channel and a lot of other channels is I am going to showcase my life as being bipolar. I am bipolar, and I wanted to make this video to kind of talk to everyone about my journey with bipolar disorder and how to get help if you think you need help, because it's a very important disease. It's a very important disease, and there needs to be more awareness on it, because I've learned over my life that there's not a lot of awareness on it at all, actually. You know, when you say bipolar, people are like, oh my god, she's crazy. Watch out, she's crazy. And people have had that reaction to me before. And people have actually said that before. And that's not true at all. I have bipolar 2. Which is more of, I do still get manic episodes where I get really, really high and I'm thinking a lot and my talking is fast paced and I have all these crazy ideas that don't make any sense and I act on them. And then I get really depressed, like severely suicidally depressed. And that can last for, the longest period it's lasted is 6 months. And the shortest it's lasted is a day. So it really just depends on what my brain feels like putting me through that day. And I am on medications. I'm on 3. And another one is as needed. But I was not medicated for a very, very long time. The thought of bipolar disorder got brought up. My mom told me when I was about 8, they had me evaluated professionally. And he was like, I'm going to treat her for ADD and ADHD, but don't be surprised if, as she gets older, bipolar disorder comes into the conversation. And they were like, I don't know, I guess they were like, okay, I don't remember it, I wasn't there. But, so from the time I was 8 to, I think, 11, I was being treated for ADD and ADHD, which was not at all the issue. You know, the medication did help me focus, but, you know, I'm 8. All I remember from my childhood, not all I remember, but from my brain itself is I would go to school sometimes, and I would talk to my friends, and I'm like, I'm feeling a little depressed today, when I was like 6. You know, a 6-year-old shouldn't be talking about how they feel depressed. They shouldn't really even know what the word means, but I did. I knew what it meant. And I felt it. And I felt very depressed. And then I'd come to school the next day and they're like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm feeling great. Like, let's go play. Let's color. Let's do all this stuff. And I was fine. And my mom said she's been watching me since I was little, and she's noticed, you know, when I was finally diagnosed bipolar, she was like, oh, it all makes sense. But I remember when I was younger, I always was organizing. Always. I was always reorganizing, cleaning my room, like, once a week. I would move things around, like, I'd move a bed around, like, I'm 10. I shouldn't move a bed around the room. But I was, and I always wanted to redecorate. I always wanted to have something in a different place at all times. Like, my mind would get these crazy ideas, like, I need to have a princess room, and then it'd be, I need to have a Bratz theme room, and then it'd be, I want to go back to a princess. You know, I was very, very indecisive, and I still am very indecisive, but it's gotten better as I've been diagnosed and I've been learning coping mechanisms. But jumping forward to when I was 15, well, it started when I was 14, I became severely, severely depressed. And I wasn't treated for it for about a year because I didn't really talk about it. I didn't really show it. You know, I hid it quite a bit. And when my parents started to catch on to it, they were like, oh, maybe she needs help. So they took me to my physician, who's been treating my family for years, you know, knows all of our history and stuff, and he put me on an antidepressant, and of course that helped when I was depressed, but it turns out I was bipolar, and when I wasn't depressed, it didn't do anything, and then I'd just tank again, and then I'd go up again, and then I'd tank, and the medication was not designed to help that. So they just put me on another antidepressant. So I was on 2 antidepressants, and they were like, this isn't working either. And at this time, at 15, I had attempted suicide for the first time. My parents did not know this, so if they're watching this, this is the first time they're learning of this. But I did, and I failed. And I remember I was so mad. Like, I just wanted to sink out of my existence, out of my body. I wanted to feel not nothing, but I wanted to stop feeling the pain. And I had no reason to be depressed. I really didn't. I had a good home. I was doing good in school. I was good at sports. Well, one sport. I was good at cross country. I sucked at everything else. But I was exceeding very well at that sport. And I had a bright future, and I know I did. I was confident that I had a bright future, and I was confident that I was going to be okay after I attempted suicide. Because I remember about a week after I attempted it, I couldn't sleep as usual, and I was thinking, why did I do it? What about my life was so bad that I just wanted to die? I wanted to end it all. I wanted to put that burden on my family. I wanted them to suffer with that pain because I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about myself, which is usual, but at that moment I realized I didn't want to die. I just wanted to be saved. I wanted help. And at that point, I told my mom, you know, because I always felt like someone was watching me in a weird way, not in like an angels and God way, like someone was watching me. I was always crazy paranoid. I was always ridiculously out of whack. Like, my moods would change 7 times throughout the day in a bad way. Like, it wouldn't go from, oh, I'm hungry, to, I'm full now. You know, this is great, to, now I'm sleepy, or something made me mad, so now I'm mad. It was, I could wake up, this is going to be a good day, I'm going to feel good about myself, and then 30 minutes later, sobbing, not wanting to go to school because I was so sad. And my senior year, when I was 17, I missed an equivalence of 2 months of school, I think it was, and I almost did not walk because I missed so much school and I was so tardy. I had about 65 tardies. My parents didn't know about that either. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But I had 65 tardies and I almost did not walk across the stage. And the only reason that I was allowed to walk across the stage was because my principal was like, you know, you're a good student, you got good grades for someone that has missed an equivalence of 2 months of school. He was like, I'm gonna let this slide, because he knew, because I had had manic episodes at school before where I would have to go to the nurse, and he kind of caught on to that something, you know, wasn't right. And It was my senior year. You know, I went to prom, I was running cross country, I had scholarship offers out the butt for running, and I was still so depressed. So depressed. And I was in unhealthy relationship after unhealthy relationship after unhealthy relationship. It was a constant stream of being used and letting them do it and thinking it's what I deserve. You know, I'm broken, I'm useless, you know, no one's gonna actually want me for me. They're never gonna want to get to know me, the real me. They're never gonna want to listen to what I have to say. You know, they're just gonna use me because that's all I'm worth. And then I graduated, and I went off to college. I had 2 roommates. They became one of my best friends. Both, they became my best friends. And it got really bad in college. I wasn't going to class. I was drinking a lot. I was partying a lot. You know, I'd be drinking rum, doing my homework. You know, I'm 18. What am I doing? And I would sit back and think, what am I doing? But I just didn't want to stop. Because if I was even a little bit tipsy, I was happy. And I wasn't bitter, and I wasn't depressed, and I didn't want to cry and lay in bed. I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to do things if I was just even a little bit tipsy. And once I was put on academic probation from Midway, I switched schools, and I did okay at first. By this time, I was on a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant, so I was only on 2. And those were doing okay. They weren't really doing the greatest, but you know, I thought I'm just gonna have to live with it. This is what it's gonna be like for the rest of my life. I'm just always going to feel like this, which in turn made me more depressed and made me more manic and made me drink more. Because of the fact that I thought there was never going to be a way out. I was always going to suffer for the rest of my life. I was never going to be happy. I was just one of those people that just wasn't, I truly thought I was not meant to be happy. I was not meant to be okay. And I got so used to the sadness, and I got so used to the suicidal thoughts and the depressiveness, and I just didn't care if I got better, and I didn't care if I died. I didn't make an attempt to kill myself again, but I did not care to live. Which is, in my opinion, it's worse, because at that point you're just kind of floating through life and you're not doing anything with yourself. And it is affecting other people around you. It affected my family, it affected my friends. I didn't have any true friends anymore. I kind of isolated myself. And I essentially had nobody. I felt like, you know, of course I had my mom and my sister, but I felt like I had nobody. And I flunked out of 2 semesters at a community college. Partied all the time. I was never home, and if I was home, I was asleep. And at this point, I had snapped. I had had enough. I started cutting and hurting myself. I would squeeze my legs and my arms to the point where there were deep bruises. Or I'd cut myself. And I went back to my doctor, and he sent me to go be evaluated at a mental facility. They checked me in that night. I was there for 3 days. And that's when they officially diagnosed me bipolar. You know, my physician was like, we think you have bipolar depression, because he's not trained in mental illness as well as a psychiatrist is. So they messed up all my medications, moved them all around, and I was finally on the right things. They were mixing well. I was feeling great almost instantly. And you know, the thing with bipolar people is we don't want to take our medicine, because when we are feeling good and we're feeling great, we think we don't need the medication, so we don't take it. And then of course we turn manic again, and then we take the medicine again, and it takes 2 weeks to get in our system, and it's a constant battle of just taking your medication. Not ever wanting to take your medication, and my mom knew that, so she would ask me, have you taken your medicine? Did you take your medicine today? Why haven't you taken your medication today? And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm fine. And she'd be like, you need to take your medicine. Because when you're manic, you don't think rationally at all. You do crazy things, you say crazy things, and what you do makes zero sense. Like, there'd be times I'd sit out in the pouring rain on our deck and just look at the water in the pool. Being soaking wet, cold, I would just sit there. I wasn't even thinking about anything. I would just sit there. And my mom she'd let me do it. There were times I'd run my car off the road. I've went vegan for like a week. I went vegetarian for like a month. And then I went vegetarian for almost a year. And there's a noise. And you know, just for no reason. I'd be like, oh, I want to be vegan now. I want to be vegetarian now, for like zero purpose. And my mom would be always like, don't start this again. You know, have you taken your medicine? And I'd be like, start what? Like, what am I starting? Because I want to be vegan? No, I haven't taken my medicine. And she's like, you need to take your medicine. So I take my medicine and I'd be back to normal. Well, fast forward to January, this past January of this year. I started to kind of decide I don't need to be hanging out with the crowd I'm hanging out with, because all they do is drink. All they do is drink. And of course all I'm gonna do is drink too. So I was drinking a lot, all the time, and I was not me. I was always unhappy. I was always depressed. And drinking does make bipolar disorder worse. It does. So I met my boyfriend in January, around the time that I was really just trying to get my life together. And I was really trying to focus on me, and I had no intentions of getting a boyfriend. None. And then I met him, and then we started dating, and he essentially, I still drank when we first started dating, and then he realized that why I was doing it. And he kind of encouraged me to get my life together more. And then I had a lot of downs. I was very depressed. I had a lot of manic episodes, panic attacks, and everything in front of him. And he did a very good job of calming me down. He still does. And I've just now got to the point in my life, after I've been committed to hospitals, I've harmed myself, I've attempted suicide, I've done things I shouldn't have done, I've said things to people I shouldn't have said, I've done things to myself that I can never take back. Things have happened to me that I can never change. And I'm finally in a place that I feel whole. And for the first time since I was little, I don't think I'm going to be unhappy the rest of my life. I don't think so negative all the time. I'm very positive. I'm very upbeat now. I still have my bad days, and I do still have my manic symptoms, because just because you're on the medication when you're bipolar does not completely eliminate the manicness. That's one of the downsides. But it does decrease them significantly. And I want people to know that just because you're bipolar is not anything to be ashamed of. I've always been very outspoken about it because it's a very, very difficult, real disease. You know, you hear people joke about it all the time, like, oh, she's bipolar, she's crazy, or you're acting bipolar. It's really offensive when someone constantly jokes about it, because it's really not a joke. It's very serious, and it's very dangerous, and you never know what you're capable of when you're manic, is the problem. And I am not the same person when I'm manic and when I'm not manic. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of showcase my personal story on bipolar disorder and how I got help. I have a very good support system. You know, my boyfriend's great, my family's great, my friends that are real friends are great. And they help me and they support me, and, you know, my mom and my dad believed me when I told them that something was not right in my head. You know, and they've really seen the worst of me. And I learned to love myself through them, because they still love me. You know, my sister still loves me. My niece and nephews love me. And I know I'm loved, and I know I'm cared for. But when I'm manic, I don't see that. I see the worst. And I see I'm never going to get better. I'm always going to be this way. But the most important thing, if you're bipolar and you're manic, is to remember that it's going to end. It always ends. It may come back again, but just like it comes back, it's going to end. It's going to pass, and you're going to be okay. Thanks for watching, guys.